Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Today we're mapping out a truly fascinating, highly complex, and intensely subjective worldview. We are going to strictly rely on a documented audio transcript to piece together what we're calling the anatomy of a targeted reality. What we're about to unpack here is a meticulously structured belief system. It's a reality where completely everyday occurrences are interpreted through this lens of continuous, highly advanced technological surveillance and harassment. As we go through this explainer, my goal is to just impartially break down the architecture of this worldview so we can understand exactly how this speaker constructs their reality. Okay, let's dive right in.
I want to start right here with this exact quote from our source material. The most pathetic, coward thing I've experienced in my life is this coward left-right technology electronic code. This just immediately drops us right into the deep end of the speaker's experience, doesn't it? You can feel the anger. There's this highly specific terminology, left-right technology electronic code, and there's this profound sense of being under attack by some unseen cowardly entity. Now, we're taking an objective, distancing approach today to unpack this dense stream of consciousness narrative. We aren't here to endorse or debunk anything at all. We're just here to understand the taxonomy of this reality.
To do that, we need a roadmap. So we'll start with part 1, a life under surveillance. 2, the technology of control. 3, the left-right cult. 4, the hierarchy of harassment. And finally, 5, a warning to humanity.
Let's get started with Section 1. A life under surveillance, the micro-experience.
Before we get into any of the massive conspiracies or secret governments, we actually have to start with the physical body and the mind of the speaker. In this reality, the surveillance isn't just, someone watching from a distance. It is a visceral, highly intrusive physical ordeal. Everyday physical sensations get entirely recontextualized here. We're talking severe heart pain, artificial arthritis, a vibrating chest, targeted eyesight, and teeth pain. The speaker specifically mentions sitting there, feeling the upper right side of their teeth hurting, and immediately identifying it not as a normal toothache, but as a deliberate, targeted attack. They call it a ritual or an instruction. Even sleep isn't a refuge anymore. The speaker details being unable to get a full night's rest, just waking up every few hours because of artificial vibrations on their bed, their arm, or their leg. It's an exhausting, 24/7 physical endurance test.
And the perceived scale of this stalking is just immense. The source says, wherever I go, these beings follow me. So this isn't localized to a single room or a house. The speaker claims that during routine daily commutes to work, individuals from their home city literally travel several cities and counties over just to follow them. It's a continuous, inescapable presence. The sheer logistical effort the speaker attributes to this operation is staggering, which, as you can imagine, makes the harassment feel totally omnipotent and all-consuming.
Which brings us to Section 2. The technology of control, the mechanisms.
So how exactly is all this allegedly happening? Well, it starts with something called remote neural monitoring, or RNM. In the speaker's worldview, this is really the cornerstone of the surveillance. It's not just bugging a room, it's literally bugging the human sensory system. The speaker claims that absolutely everything they see, hear, smell, feel, and think is monitored and put on display. Most startlingly, they assert that visual images and dreams are forcefully streamed directly into their mind. As the source states, that's facts, that's my fact, it happens to me every day. They believe these externally generated images are then somehow displayed on actual televisions for other people to see. Next up is voice-to-skull, or V2K, which the speaker frequently groups together with acoustic technology. This involves projecting localized sounds, voices, knocking on walls, honking horns, or footsteps that have absolutely no visible source. And what really solidifies this reality for the speaker is external validation. The transcript mentions instances where the speaker heard a voice, looked around, saw no one, but caught bystanders reacting to the exact same sound. A reaction the speaker claims the bystanders wasn't supposed to make. That perceived shared experience heavily reinforces their belief in the technology.
But the technology isn't just inside the mind. It scales up dramatically from there. We have direct energy weapons, or DEWs, which the speaker claims are used on highways to physically lift the back of their car and push it into other lanes, basically manipulating traffic flows. We have BCI, brain-computer interface boards, and a massive emphasis on simple microphones, which the speaker points out are absolutely crucial for the cowards to constantly track a target's location through noise. And, incredibly, the transcript even cites weaponized weather technology. So think about that. We've zoomed all the way out from a toothache to electromagnetic forces lifting vehicles at highway speeds and literal weather control.
Let's move to Section 3, the left-right cult, the gamification of harassment.
Okay, so we know how they are allegedly being harassed, but why? What's the point? Well, in this worldview, the harassment isn't just some clinical observation. It is structured as this bizarre, gamified competition. The speaker describes a super strict dichotomy, left versus right. Participants in this pathetic coward cult must adhere perfectly to arbitrary rules based on their assigned side. A left person won't do anything that appears right. This dictates wearing matching top and bottom colored clothing, eating specific foods, and even driving behavior, like strictly taking left turns or staying in the left lane unless explicitly instructed otherwise. It is a reality governed entirely by hyper-regimented, binary rules.
The speaker actually literally describes this as a Hunger Games type thing with competitions. It's an incredibly striking analogy, isn't it? These opposing sides compete by performing actions to see which side wins. And what exactly are they winning? Well, the speaker outlines that they compete for control over pieces of equipment. So access to cameras, TVs, DKS, and drones. They also compete for geographical territory. And that ranges from the macro level of whole countries and states all the way down to a specific parking lot, a motel room, or a local store. It's essentially a gamified war for total spatial and technological dominance.
All right, on to Section 4, the hierarchy of harassment, the macrostructure.
If this is a massive operation spanning across cities and states, who is actually running it? Well, it's mapped out in a hierarchy. At the very bottom, Tier 4, we have the general beings. The speaker views these as the unaware majority. People who just go to the local store, spend their money, and vote for a team without truly understanding the advanced technology at play. Above them in Tier 3 are the drones or clones. These are people whose lives and bodies are entirely controlled by the cult's instructions. In Tier 2, we find the handlers, the noisemakers. They're the ones making the calls and using the microphones to track targets. And finally, sitting at the very top in Tier 1 is the upper hierarchy, a highly secretive group the speaker refers to as the family. This is comprised of the moms, dads, children, women, men in each town who actually orchestrate the entire system.
But there is actually a profound layer of empathy mixed in with the horror here. When speaking about those Tier 3 drones, the speaker says this quote, "If they stop living this life, they will probably be in bad shape mentally and physically because their bodies are basically controlled by advanced technology." The speaker believes the very people harassing them are themselves victims of complete technological subjugation. They aren't acting on free will. They are merely reacting to voice-to-skull instructions and remote neural monitoring. It really paints a bleak picture of an entire society held completely hostage by its own tech.
Finally, Section 5, a warning to humanity, the message. The speaker doesn't just passively observe this system. They actively push back against it and offer a pretty dire message for the rest of us. Defiance is absolutely at the core of their identity here. I'm a human. I'm not a member of nobody's cult. They flat out refuse to play the left-right game. They actively try to disrupt the logic of the system. So if they are assigned left, they'll deliberately use their right hand just to mess up the cult's tracking. They even went so far as to have custom t-shirts made to publicly denounce their involvement in what they call this street theater. They demand that their fundamental human free will be recognized, pointing out that attacking someone with this technology against their will is the ultimate crime. And the stakes, according to our source material, literally could not be higher. Here are the gravest dangers the speaker outlines. It's a system run by unadulterated cowards acting on a mass scale. It relies entirely on the illegal usage of BCI boards and the forced removal of free will. But perhaps the most apocalyptic warning of all is the use of weaponized weather. The speaker believes that this technology is the single greatest danger to humanity right now because, in their own words, it can erase humanity in a matter of days and the fault can be placed on natural occurrence.
This brings us to a really profound question that I want you to take away from this explainer today. What happens to a society when an individual's reality becomes entirely fractured by the perceived weaponization of everyday life? Think about it. When a toothache is an instruction, a honking horn is a targeted acoustic attack, and a normal lane change on a highway is the result of an invisible energy weapon, the very fabric of objective reality and societal trust just dissolves. Mapping this transcript out shows us just how absolute and all-encompassing this worldview becomes once that foundational premise of total surveillance is accepted. I want to leave you with this one final, lingering thought directly from our source text. You cannot continue to play with fire and do not get burned. It's such a powerful summary of the speaker's ultimate warning to us. Whether you view this as an elaborate metaphor for modern alienation, a literal description of hidden technology, or a manifestation of profound mental anguish, the sheer gravity and intensity of this targeted reality is something that just cannot be ignored. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.